Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads, and welcome back to our house specials, where we're going to be discussing the update to our Adventure Academia. We're going to be discussing what happened and a reflection on Episode 2, To the Cursed Vale, and the encounter that went with it, as well as the next thing we will be doing with episode 3. So, before we get into that, as far as things that are new for today, I don't have any real new announcements. We're organizing our live game that was given away, and hopefully we'll be filming that, and I've asked all those involved so far. They are okay with a game that is recorded, so you guys will be able to see that too, and not just a reflection from me, but you'll actually get to see the game, so that should be fun for y'all. I don't have anything else to go along with that, because these are happening weekly, and we're not announcing any of our new milestones yet for our giveaways until I get ironed out exactly which one I want to go with first. So I'm sure I will let y'all know about that soon enough. But let's go ahead and finish up with those announcements, since they're not very long, and I want to try and keep these quick. I haven't been super good at it this past few times, but hopefully this time I'll be better at it. So let's get into reflections for the episode 2, To the Cursed Vale. So as far as the build up and the story that was done there seemed to go pretty good. I am still having the kids read, but what I'm doing is breaking it up kind of to I did it with, I guess you'd say I'd break it into paragraphs, even though there's only 4 people in the older group, so they are in they're reading more. But the kids, the younger kids especially, I broke it up to where they read a paragraph or something like that, instead of one person reading the whole thing. I did that last year a little bit, but I have to help the younger kids a bit more, and so it drags into the time they actually get to play, which is one of the reasons hopefully this next one won't have as long of a description, but it'll have more action for them. So we'll see. So, as far as reflections for episode 2, the lore went fine, and I didn't cut out anything that you guys saw, but I had to really tighten this up when I was writing it, and I think this vagueness that we went with, that we discussed last time, has been helpful, because I get less questions from the kids too. But I did tell them they canonized that with their roles, both of the groups canonized the breaching of the two gates, so that was a thing. They thought that was like, no. So I think they like that that the roles that they're making are actually impacting the story in a fairly meaningful way right now, as I'm building out the scenarios. So that is that for the Cursed Vale itself, as for this flavor text here on the Cursed Vale. And then the encounter portion, I did not specify here in the encounter what went on, because if I did that, then whoever was running it after me, like if I post this, or if I share it, then whoever was going to be running it this next time after me would have to do that exact thing. And I didn't want that necessarily. I wanted it to be a bit more open. So they did encounter something. The idea was that they would still encounter something, still be rolling. But I did what I did before with the exploration roll, and I'm finding that that is very useful for determining, for me, letting the players determine for me what the scenario's severity will be. And it makes them feel very connected to that. So they rolled well enough this last time to, both groups, rolled well enough to get some advantage. I went with a wargob being ridden by a thorn goblin and a fungus goblin being there. Now, depending on the severity, here's the difference. The older group had a more severe encounter, a more dangerous encounter, I should say, because both of the goblins, both the thorn goblin and the fungus goblin, were riding wargobs. They acted on the initiative of the wargobs. So that's how I handled a mount, is that the initiative was the mount's initiative. I think that worked well enough for it. The major difference there was there was a fungus goblin and a thorn goblin, and depending on how severe there was, they would either both be riding or not. So there were, I guess you could say, there were about 4 levels of severity they could have went with. The most severe was, well, technically the most severe would have been adding more goblins, but in this case, the most severe was them having to face 2 mounted goblins. The second was that they either were going to face 2 mounted goblins or 1 mounted, a thorn goblin mounted with a fungus goblin not, which is what the younger kids did. And the variation on that severity is they could either be surprised or get a surprise round themselves, or no surprise round at all. Sorry about that, I had something in my throat. So the older group rolled well enough that they were able to fight the not severest thing. They got to fight the 2 mounted goblins, no surprise round. The younger group got to play where they had a surprise round on the single mounted goblin and fungus goblin. So they actually did get a surprise round. And they used it well. I don't tell them what to do. I let them choose what to do, but the younger group puts together things fine and are able to, with minimal guidance, piece together what the best move would be strategically, at least moderately so, and are able to accomplish that. Like they put a baneful firewall around the 2 goblins, the goblins that were there, the wargubs, and the younger group was able to better, how should I do this? They better contained the situation because they had that surprise round, and that was very helpful. The older group did not get that surprise round, so there was the rushing up, there was the battle fighting. They did both use Devereaux differently and his transformations differently, because one was dealing with melee and one was not. So there was that shift and change in the gameplay, and that's fun to see for me as a GM, as a LM, a Legend Master, that the kids vary it up so I don't have the same thing happening either. It keeps it fresh for me, so I like it. But I think that's a bit of enough of a reflection for now on the encounter stuff, because if you want some more on that, you can. But both of the kids' groups, actually, I wanted to say this before we shifted over. Both of the groups were able to explode the flame goblin. I mean, the fungus goblin. Because if you remember from earlier in Season 1, that was something to consider when you were fighting these creatures, is that the fungus goblins were explosive. Their spit was explosive. Now, that may come into effect against them later, but well, not their spit only, but their body fluid, the stuff they used to poison was also flammable. So that is something that could be both used against them to explode them, but also I may use that later if I'm having trouble with the kids not being challenged enough. Okay, now that I've said that about the fungus goblin explosions and maybe using it against them, we'll see. We will move into the flavor text for this coming time, because I am trying to keep us concise. And I'll save some more things for the final reflections portion. All right. So this episode is titled The Golden Cairn. And that is a word I'm expanding vocabulary for the kids. That's part of the reason for this, for the use of the various different words. So, to the golden cairn. This one is meant to be, this flavor text is meant to be more from Hildegard's perspective, which we will see. So let's go ahead and get into that. Hildegard had always loved the many beautiful verdant growths that the light nourished, but the plants of the cursed vale seemed to shun that nourishing glow. As she and her friends weaved their way beneath the gnarled branches of the dark trees, trying to carefully avoid the patrolling goblins, a palpable foreboding entered into her heart, a foreboding she also noticed in the faces of her allies. While they did have to fight a few of Grum's foul creations, there was a perceptible decrease in their presence as her party made its way deeper into the woods. Traveling beneath the gloomy boughs had understandably left Wilhelm and Maximilian with something of a serious, perhaps even grim expression, but as the densely netted canopy began to obscure more and more of the sky, Hildegard could see a different emotion in Devereux's face. The Star-Child was anxious, not, it seemed to her, for their physical peril, but rather for the lack of celestial beauty for him to gaze upon and consult. After many days of cautious travel, they came abruptly to the edge of a cliff top overlooking a sudden descent into a long valley. The sun was setting, making the entire valley seem like it was aflame. Had it not been for the melancholy feeling that pervaded the entire scene, Hildegard would have thought it beautiful. Wilhelm pointed to a tall landmark that seemed to glitter in the sun, calling it the Golden Cairn, and remarking how it was a feared place for even Grum. They all were struck silent when Devereux replied that it was their destination. Boom, boom, boom. So, they've got to go in there to go to the Golden Cairn. Or what's called the Golden Cairn now. I'll give y'all some backstory and stuff like that, and some lore stuff in the final thoughts. How about that? But for this I think is hopefully going to be short enough to keep it a bit more snappy so that when they read, they can just read. We'll get some establishing text and then be able to do it. I'm going to have to do something like that, I think. Keep these more concise if I'm going to be able to have them read them and us get to do more than a round of combat or a round of something, because they're not going to need exploration rolls this time, but they will have more combat this time, hopefully. And the reason I'm wanting more combat is because that means more rolls, which means more math, which means more practice with multiplying and adding and stuff like that. So anyway, more algebra practice basically. That is this one. I did incorporate something that people may or may not pick up on, and that is Hildegard remarking about Devereux missing the sky when he can't see it. That's one of the phobias. If you go and look at Developing Devereux, that episode that we did for our house specials that had Levi and Dan from Avenue Studios with me, they helped me kind of work through that in my head. And that's one of his flaws, is a compulsion, an addiction or a compulsion to seeing the sky. He has to see the sky. He's afraid of not seeing the sky. So I don't know if you'd characterize that as a phobia or not, but it is a compulsion, I think is what we went with. But anyway, that's in the storytelling there. And then this right here, hopefully will build a bit of interest and mystery to get the kids into. And it leads directly into our encounter. So let's go ahead and get into that and its flavor text. None of Grum's minions seemed to venture anywhere close to the Golden Cairn. In fact, according to Wilhelm, they actively shunned the place. There were many tales of what might lie within the monolithic structure, but little was known for sure. Even though Wilhelm told them of what little he knew for certain, Nothing he said could have prepared them for what they found. With how tightly the growth was in this part of the Cursed Vale, they could see only a short distance before themselves. It was no surprise, then, how taken aback they were when, without warning, they came right up to the colossal construction. They stepped onto the edge of what could be characterized as a small ancient courtyard at the base of what now could be seen to be a overgrown ruin of a castle. Though in a wasted state, it was one of magnificent construction, and seemed to earn its golden name in a literal sense, being gilded or outright made of gold in many places. Maximilian reckoned that at its height it would have equaled the City of Bronze in beauty. As they approached the entrance, a voice, deep and ominous, pronounced the following: "Precious is the golden ruin within the valley grim. Deep and dark run its halls, a great treasure lies within. Enter not, lest ye find a queen both dark and fair. Should you unworthy prove to be, your bones she shall lay bare. Yet mayhaps ye be found worthy, mayhaps you do prove true. Then may you face worms bravely, and turn their bane to your virtue." And so there we have it. And that's about where I ended it, because I'm not going to end it with them resolving to go in and stuff like that, because that's kind of the implied thing, right? They're going to start going in. And this, hopefully, will be mysterious enough to get them interested in it, while also being thematic enough and enough of a statement in text for them to feel like they got some information to be intrigued about. So that's the hope for that one. This is a rhyme I came up with. This is a poem I came up with. It's not from anything, so there we go. Hopefully that works out. And I tried to do something that actually hinted at things that were within. Like there's a queen both dark and fair. So there's something inside this place. It's something that even Grum fears, this place here. That even Grum, with his abilities, fears to go to this place. And there's the queen both dark and fair, and she's going to be the main thing that they fight. Not this time, but spacing it out time-wise, probably next time? I don't know. But episode 3 will revolve around this. And then episode 4 will probably revolve around facing the queen within. Both dark and fair. I wanted to do something to kind of allude to the reward that's there. The treasure, a great treasure lies within. And then if you prove worthy, you can have something that you get to face worms bravely. That's WYRM. Like dragon worms. And their bane to your virtue, and turn their bane to your virtue. So you get benefited by something that has a bane to them. And that's basically Dragon's Bane, the claymore, or the big sword, I should say, that is going to be within that Wilhelm will get. So this is kind of Wilhelm's story. This whole season 1 and 2 are going to be focused around facing Grum, and Grum is very connected into Wilhelm's story. So this is it's not Wilhelm-centric season, 2 seasons, but it's a Wilhelm-centric arc of the story. In some ways. Everybody gets developed in it, though. So we have this built up, and it's pretty short. I am not sure. I ate up a lot of space on the page with this poem, so it's probably fine for right now, for what we're doing. But in the future, I may have to watch that. I think that's what I've got for now. As far as final reflections or anything, as for final reflections, I wanted to give you guys here. So if you don't want spoiled on any of this, for if I ever develop this setting more in the future, you can probably click off now. But if you do want to know something, which might change even before then, you can stick around. So the idea here is that this Golden Castle, I think I've mentioned this before, that this was written, this adventure takes a lot of thematic inspirations, not really story inspirations, but thematic inspirations from the first Atari RPG game that's touted as the first visual adventure game, called Adventure. And in that, there is a sword that is stored within the Golden Castle that you have to get, that you can get. So that is what you're looking at here. And this is what I was going with for that. That there is this Golden Castle. I took that inspiration there and kept that thematic element. That this Golden Castle, this thing that has become a cairn or a tomb, is holding the Dragon's Bane. Lore-wise, in my head, so far, this is where something that the kids will have to be getting back is in. The thing that Grum uses to do all he does with the goblins, the manipulation and mutation of the magics, or natural magics like plant magics, it is done through a sphere that he has. And that sphere was originally housed here. He sieged this place and took it thousands of years ago. And this place has become, and he can't come back here because the sphere is drawn back to this place, and it wants to come back to this place and be here because this is where it is at. This is where it's designed to be. This place is now cursed because its greatness has been drawn away from it thousands of years ago. And now the group is coming upon that ruin and this golden, once magnificent thing. And the queen within was the queen of the time whose husband fell defending the orb and from Grum and all that stuff, all that battle. And so she cursed, a sorceress type, maybe she was a sorceress, maybe just the magics of the world that did it, but she cursed Grum and cursed all that, so that until one worthy to destroy Grum came, that she would see the one worthy to destroy Grum, and until then she would not pass until she looked upon the face of the doom of Grum, he who would bring doom upon Grum type of thing, and tried him by the fires, and tried him by some kind of magic type of thing. I haven't ironed it all the way out, but that's kind of the idea. And so that's why Wilhelm is coming to get the Dragon's Bane, without knowing that this was his destiny, that he was destined to try this, and we will see what his fate will be once he does. So hopefully this has been fun. Hopefully you guys have found some interesting things about it, and I think I'm going to be right about to what I was last time, but maybe I'll be faster. I don't know. We'll see how it edits out. So that is that for now. We'll see you next week with another one of these. I don't know if a Around the Hearth comes out next week or not, but if it does, cool. If not, well, but October we'll definitely have another one. So it won't come out next week. It's October. So October we'll have our next Around the Hearth. Anyway, as always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
Fix my mic. But the Wargobs were as the that the they all were struck silent when with Devereaux's reply being that blah, 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 blah. We'll start that section over. Wilhelm pointed to it. Someone using my number to do robocalls, apparently. Alright, let's get back into this. I'm gonna retry that. It didn't come out right. There we go. Got it fixed. With Devereaux's reply being... I did not fix it. Hold on. Well, let's see if I got it fixed. With how tightly the growth was in... Without... It was no surprise then how taken aback they were to come almost right on to... Gotta rework that. Okay, I'll just start this whole part over. They stepped onto a... They stepped... Okay, restart that. Okay. We will go with without instead. With how tightly the growth was in this part of the cursed veil, they could not... It was no surprise then how taken aback they were. Okay. Well, hopefully I got past her. I don't know.